from your listening device all the way into your agent's psyche. It's Real Estate Between the Lines with Brian Lee. Teaching you things you didn't know you needed to know to help you become a legendary agent and turn your clients into raving fans.
All right, welcome everybody to Real Estate Between the Lines. This is our special edition. We're calling Real Estate Locked In, or actually we said it locked in between the lines today. So Cate and producer Christian and I were talking about upcoming episodes we plan to record and realized that with everything that's going on right now with COVID-19, coronavirus, all the scariness, the agents might want some encouragement and some suggestions on how other agents are coping right now and how they're working within these socially distant requirements, and that there's so many scary things going on that what's happening with the markets. So, with everything going on, the virus spreading, and we are out of toilet paper. What are we to do? What better thing to do than let's have a podcast about how to get through some of this. So we put together some really 4 short, quick episodes that we wanted to put out here in the next week to kind of give agents some ideas on things to consider and to think about. So today's episode, we're talking about appraisal and appraisal issues. So me being an appraiser, I get into this a lot. And before I do that, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm so rude. I've been in quarantine and socially distant. I don't talk to anybody. I should introduce my lovely co-host, Cate.
Hello.
All of you probably already know. We also have Christian, who is not with us. We are being socially distant from him right now. Also, we're on our own. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're in our, what are we?
We are in podcast, or we're in Studio Q for quarantine. Like we have a Studio A, a Studio B, and this is Studio Q in our home right now.
Christian gets the comfy.
Yeah, he gets the nice
Studio
one.
B.
Anyway,
with the pretty background.
Just wanted to say hi to Christian and all that real quick.
Hello.
But anyway, agents, so again, we want to take about 5-10 minutes of your time today just to talk about appraisal issues, to something really short and quick. Being an appraiser, I'm kind of in the middle of all this, and so there have been some changes that have come about. And one of the first things I want to discuss is that there's a lot of concern over being socially distant from everybody, and approximately 50 to 60% of appraisers out there aren't even willing to do work right now, which is kind of scary because I know the real estate market hasn't dried up a lot. It maybe has a little bit, but when we have fewer appraisers doing this, some of the concern is, are we having slower turn times on getting these done? Because I know that in our office, when we have a whole bunch of reports trying to get through, it's impossible to keep up with that, especially when we're doing more work. And then also the other thing is that our fees are higher. I know that I am charging a little bit more, and it's not because I'm being opportunistic, is that I've got to take more risk going into these homes. So I'm having to wear masks, I'm having to wear booties, I'm having to wipe everything down.
Yes.
It takes more effort, more energy, more cost to me, and those things aren't cheap right now. So we've bumped up our price. Not astronomically, but that's just something to be aware of. So this is something that we're recommending for agents to talk to their clients about, or the lenders about, is how are they dealing with these kind of things. So that's a big deal that we're getting into, and communicate with those appraisers and find out what they're expecting. The other thing that happened just this week, we normally have an evergreen episode, but this is something that just happened on March 23rd, 2020, is that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. I swear I know what I'm talking about. This is the problem of being in Studio Q. I don't know what the heck's going on. Is there even an outside world right now?
Christian, can you help us?
So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, let's just call them Fannie and Freddie. They have changed their rules on this temporarily, and they are allowing some lenders and some loan products for lenders to be able to use a desktop type of appraisal and also a drive-by. Now, because they made that announcement, lenders are still adjusting to this. Here, we're recording this on Thursday. So this is only 4 days old. And some lenders are like saying, we're not doing that. We want interior inspections. And certainly if we're talking about cash out refis, if we're doing FHA, VA, high risk type properties, the lenders are still going to require an interior inspection. But I point that out to you because there are some concerns that in those situations where a lender is agreeable to a desktop. Can
you give me a quick synopsis of a desktop appraisal?
Well, actually, it's very interesting. So a desktop appraisal is going to likely involve somebody that is not an appraiser to go out to the property. They are
Okay.
going to drive out to the outside of the home, take pictures of the comp, or take pictures of the subject, take pictures of the comparables, still not go in, and then give that information to an appraiser that's sitting in front of a computer. So basically, I could be completely quarantined and still do appraisals. So there's obviously a concern over this non-appraiser person looking at this home.
Evaluating the home.
And granted, they are just taking exterior pictures, so there's probably not they would miss on the outside anyway, but it is a non-appraiser looking at it, and there might be something that a trained appraiser might see. Again, it's very unlikely, but still just something to absolutely be aware of. And then certainly the drive-by appraisal is where the appraiser is going out to the home and they're looking at it. Again, they're staying on the outside of it. They're not going into it, but at least the appraiser is going to go see it.
Okay.
So there's some good and bad things there with this too, is that in the situation of all this is that the good is that if we're not going on the inside, maybe we don't see the bad. So in some situations, I imagine that there might be some properties out there that agents might say, I hope they don't see this inspection issue. I hope they don't see this FHA-VA thing or whatever it might be. I hope they don't see it. So these drive-bys, these desktops, maybe be able to be your savior right now. Again, I'm not suggesting that you hide anything, but this might be a good thing by not seeing the bad. Now, here's the
Brian?
bad side. Yeah.
Can you talk about, are they considered essential services?
Great question. That's actually something I was going to bring up. So thanks for the side note tangent.
I mean, this is Thursday. We probably should say it's Thursday, the 26th, because I guess it could change.
That's true. That's true. Anyway, so the bad of this is that sometimes the appraisers won't see the good things. So if you're looking at a property that we're getting into that
maybe has upgrades and extra finishes, this is probably a more important time as an agent to make sure you're sending that list of updates and upgrades to the appraiser, and maybe even some detailed photos. I mean, would that be something that might help?
Absolutely. So the communication with the appraiser, if they're doing these desktop drive-by type of appraisals, we're not going to see these things. We're going to look at a BLC photo of this thing, but it may not be a great picture or it doesn't show everything. So certainly we wouldn't get into that. Fortunately, also one of the concerns was is that appraisers we are considered to be an essential service.
Great.
So at least in the state of Indiana, we are permitted to go out and do these things. So again, a lot of appraisers are just not doing these at all. They're not doing any interior appraisals at all. They're maybe doing the exteriors when the lenders allow them. But certainly they're going to miss some things on occasion if they're not showing up, if they're not going into this.
Yeah, so it's all the more important that we as agents are representing our clients well. And if you know the listing well, then make sure that you're sending that list of updates or photos and whatnot to the appraiser ahead of time so they know.
Yeah. And one of the other concerns is that there's the fee of this. So again, something to talk with the lender about. But if the lender is allowing a desktop or drive-by type of appraisal, chances are that appraisal cost should be lower for your client. So if you represent a buyer in a transaction, it might be worthwhile to ask the lender, are they reducing the cost at all? And they should be, in my opinion, in most cases. Again, I don't want to say this emphatically or categorically that it always should be, but if I'm not visiting the property, if I'm not going inside, not having to measure it, my time is a little less, so maybe I can cut back on some of my cost. And so we see that. Another good thing is that, good or bad, is that now appraisers might actually have to talk to agents for a change. I know we typically don't like to talk to agents at all, but considering the fact that, we're going to be on more heavy restrictions, that we're going to be very cautious. Certainly walking through a house, I'm going to be very cognizant of where I step and what I touch. And the chances are I might miss something even more. So certainly it's going to be up to the agents to kind of help us through all that thing. So go through there. Also, the bad side is that you might still have to talk to appraisers. And man, some of us are just curmudgeons. We are cranky. We are angry. We have to live and go home to our wives that are sometimes yelly at us. Not mine, of course. Mine's a delight. But anyway, so just understand that.
Hey, Brian, does the rules around appraisers, does that also apply to home inspections?
I thought about talking about that on this episode. It's a great question, and I just don't want to speak for them, but to some degree, yes. We've seen still kind of the same thing, is that some inspectors just aren't doing any of the work, that they've kind of shied away from it, that they're taking extra precautions. They're suggesting that people don't show up to their homes, inspections and things like that.
Coming from my perspective as an agent, I've had a few recently where the inspectors have asked that the client and me as the agent do not attend. But they haven't said that they have any set rules. Every inspection company has been a little different on how they're handling it, but almost all of them say that they are doing their utmost, what they can to sanitize, keep themselves safe. They're not even like elbow saying hi. They are staying 6 feet away from each other, and explaining.
I've been trying to institute that at my home, just an elbow only rule, but she still wants kisses and hugs. This is terrible.
Always.
Anyway,
you just have a horrible life. But a lot is being done over the phone. They'll explain it through FaceTime or some kind of video.
Yeah. So I imagine it's very similar to answer your question, but I shouldn't say obviously, but inspectors, I feel for them because they're getting a lot more into the home. They're testing a lot more things. They're touching a lot more things. And as an appraiser, there's a few things we have to touch, but it's limited. And the inspectors, I know they're getting into that a lot more. So I can't imagine what it's like for them. I wouldn't be surprised if they're wearing hazmat suits. I think that's where I'd go in some of the homes.
Well, speaking of that, are there some tips you might have for a listing agent or a seller if appraiser is coming out to their home? How can they best prepare the house for you?
That is a great question, Cate, and I do have an answer for that. And that is, as always, make sure you leave a big bottle of Captain Morgan on the countertop. Agents, if you want a good value, especially during this time, we need alcohol.
You do.
So if you don't have that alcohol on the kitchen counter, it's now more than ever, we need it. So
the value's not coming in if it's not there.
But outside of that key piece of advice, the other thing that we want to make sure of is that you just as if you were going to show a home to a prospective buyer, open up the doors, turn on the lights, open the attic and crawl space accesses. If it's an FHA appraisal, we're going to have to get in the attic. We're going to have to get in the crawl space. Make sure those openings are open. If there's a ladder, or if you can open up a ladder or set up a ladder, make it so we have to touch as little as we can. Obviously, the concern is the transmission of this virus. And I'm going in with gloves and I'm going with the mask and all these things to try to take precautions. But the fewer switches I have to mess with, the fewer doors I have to mess with, the fewer portals, the scuttles that I have to mess with, I'm going to walk away from that thing feeling a lot better than walking into some home and feeling like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've got cooties all over me.
Yes, and I would say the same for your seller or the person that lives in the home, the less that the appraiser, because we all know appraisers are dirty.
Wow, that just happened.
Wow, Kate.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This is like a true crossfire. For those of you that are watching the video, like normally Kate and I are kind of like perpendicular to each other. We're actually facing each other. So it's like, you suck, agent. And she's on the other side saying, hey, appraisers. So it's true crossfire fashion.
Well, you're
right
also
now.
protecting your house from the appraiser.
That's exactly what
true.
I'm saying.
That's a great
point.
Yeah.
You know
It
what?
goes
The
two
less
ways.
the appraiser has to touch, the less germs he is going to leave.
That is a great point.
The he appraisers leave the germs. The she appraisers are usually very clean. They hand sanitize.
I've met some. We'll move on.
Yes.
Let's be politically correct here. Yes,
Okay.
yes. But agents also communicate with your appraisers, find out what they expect. I mean, some people, even those that are still going on the inside, they're taking on some of this risk, but just making sure that you're talking with them, seeing what they want. And again, right now, the biggest thing that I can talk about is have patience, everybody. I know that agents are already on edge all the time, even outside of this time, on edge with appraisals and value and inspection issues and all that. Now, more than ever, everybody needs patience. Appraisers do. You need patience. Everybody does. It might take a little bit longer to get your report back. You might get, more questions and all that. Please have patience. I promise we're not trying to be mean, at least not most of us. Some of us are, but most of us are not trying to be mean. Just have patience.
Have patience and be sure to set the appropriate expectations with your clients and with all parties involved so that, your seller is aware that the appraisal might come in a little bit later than usual. And for the buyer, make sure that they are aware, they know what they're getting, that they can talk to their lender and know, is this a drive-by appraisal or is the appraiser visiting the home? Just be prepared. Make sure everybody is aware. Communicate.
Yeah, exactly. Patience, communication, and working together. We are in this together, guys. As much as we want to joke and all that, this is a very serious situation. We want to help things go through. Agents, inspectors, appraisers, all that. We're trying to get this thing done, but we're all dealing with a new situation that all of us are still learning. So let's come together as a community. Let's have some patience with each other. Let's have some love for each other. Let's show the world that we are an awesome thing. So that's it for this one today, guys. We hope that you take care, stay safe, be healthy, be legendary, and wash your hands. Take care.
You've been listening to Real Estate Between the Lines with Brian Lee. If you'd like to learn more about becoming a legendary agent, be sure to visit us at brianclee.com and sign up to hear about upcoming workshops and events. Now go out there and turn your clients into raving fans.